Ove subote u emisiji imam čast da ugostim čoveka čija životna priča pomera granice i inspiriše. Moj sagovornik je Metju Mukaler, momak iz Londona, dete siromašnih izbeglica iz Ugande, čiji put dokazuje da snovi nemaju granice. Metju nas vodi od svojih početaka kao strastvenog gejmera preko trenutaka kada osniva start-up i prodaje ga za 3 miliona funti, pa sve do pozicije rukovodioca u jednoj od najvećih kompanija na svetu, BlackRocka. Njegova priča nije samo o uspehu, već o istrajnosti, veri u sebe i učenju kroz neuspehe. A znate šta je posebno? Na tom putu njegova priča nije zaobišla ni Srbiju.
I was really amazed with your presentation because you made so many personal points and personal aspects of your story and brought it into actually advising the young people about what they can avoid, how they can actually be more successful. And this is what I like, because people normally are coming and giving the speeches and talking about what they prepared to talk, and you gave us yourself. And this is what I like.
No, I'm glad that you actually recognize that, because public speaking, for some context, my background is technical. As I mentioned in my speech, I'm a technical person, studied computer science. I'm a software engineer, was an engineer, technical person during my startup. So public speaking was something that I worked on actively. And one key part that you learn in public speaking is that you don't want to just present factual information. You want to communicate emotion. Because people remember facts, but they forget them. But people always remember emotion. The saying goes, people may forget what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. So with my speech...
Maria Angelo, I think, or something like that. So she told that we will forget what somebody told us, how they told us, but we will never forget how they make us feel.
Exactly. And in my case, the reality of startups is that they're tough. There's no it's not really fun. There's bits of fun, but there's a lot of painful stuff that goes into it. But all you see in the headlines is, this startup raised this amount of money, this startup got acquired for that amount of money. You don't really see the painful parts.
Of course. But you said my background is tech. Let me go back to your background.
Yes.
Actually, your parents are from Uganda?
Correct.
But you were born in UK?
Yep. And
what was in this first, let's say, your experiences in life, what was some point in the life where what really make the change or transformed you towards this what you're doing now today? I mean, there is always somebody who moves us. There's always some point, some game changer, be it a teacher or a parent or whatever. Do you have this kind of memories?
I do. I'd say the first figure would have been my late father. He passed away, but he was the one who was the tech kind of guy in the household, right? So he had the laptop, the computers, and I used to use that a lot as a kid. But I used to use it mainly just for playing games. Gaming is really what kind of started me on this IT kind of journey. So when I interacted with computers, I got more and more involved in learning about programming, websites, game development, and I started just playing around with computers at a young age. But if we fast forward a couple of years to when I was maybe in college, I studied a course on IT, and then initially I just picked it because I liked IT, right? But that course taught me that I could actually use technology as a kind of superpower. Because using technology, you can tell computers what to do. And that was a realization that I made during that course.
So it is, first of all, if I correctly understood you, your entry point, as many of your generation, came through the gaming.
Correct, yes.
That is how, also my generation, I'm a little bit older than you, but also we came, it was a different technology. We had Spectrum at that time, you had already very good computers. But basically it is the gaming for a lot of young people as a first entry point to technology. But then understanding that technology is not what is actually presented to us as some possibility, but some kind of tool to solve the real issue, the real problems. That has to happen.
Yes.
And what is the one? How actually you realize that through your career and building you up as a developer to something and say, hey, this is actually that I can use to solve some kind of real issues?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how you define real issues, right?
Yeah.
Because as a gamer, games enable you to enter a world where there are real issues, because every game has levels, they have bad characters, they have good characters. So as a kid, right, or myself, I'll speak for myself, I used to get so involved in games that the game was real life. So whenever I want to get power-ups in the game, I found ways to hack the game and make it so that maybe rather than jumping, say, this high, I'd be able to jump that high. So to answer your question, real issues, it depends on how you define real issues. Is it like real world issues? Is it like gaming issues?
So basically the gaming issues were in this part of your life actually real issues.
Yes, basically, because I was a kid, that's what I knew.
That is what you did, yeah.
Yeah, so
because it's all, I think it's more or less about mindset to solve something.
Yes.
As a part of the, using technology in that. And after you went to college, so you said you went also to the programming and developing. How came to the idea? Okay, now I will make some, my own thing.
Yes.
So for my first idea to like a startup, how have you came to that point?
Yeah, actually, it's a long story, but I made multiple projects when I was learning about coding and stuff. Like I made a Facebook clone to teach myself how to make, for the technical people, they call back-end technologies, which is on the back-end servers, front-end technologies, which is like the user interface, which is what you interact with as a human. But those experiences of building projects taught me the basic building blocks of how to actually make a product. But fast forward to college or university, my first actual startup attempt where I was building something for myself was actually because I lived on campus in the university. We had this campus shop where in order to buy stuff, you'd always have to go to the shop. But the campus was big, right? So it doesn't matter where you are on the campus, you always have to physically go to the shop. Yeah. So I actually, built a platform which is similar to Uber Eats or Glovo here in Portugal.
Actually, somebody is going to shop and bringing you the...
Exactly. So that was the whole idea. So I built that from a technical standpoint, and people kind of loved it. Yeah. So yeah, that was my first kind of attempt.
And let's moving forward to your next points in the career.
Yeah.
Then it came to the let's say the real issues became different.
Yes, the real issues. Yes, the real issues became different. Yeah. I guess my first taste of that was in commercial kind of experiences. Going back to when I was in a research lab. So the first project I worked on was how do we use technology to combat cybersecurity attacks. So one of the projects was a collaborative platform where different organizations can share their cybersecurity data. Maybe there's a hacker who's trying to hack into your network at work, and I have a separate company, and the same hacker is trying to hack into my network. Our data, as it is, because we're separate companies, they're very separate, so we don't get to mix and match the data. But the research project that I worked on was effectively creating a platform where all of us, different companies, can share our data, our cybersecurity data, and we can analyze. I don't want to say AI because we're not really using AI. It's basic analysis kind of stuff. We can analyze patterns and share alerts. So if someone's hacking into my network, it will flag up. You can
learn from that for the different other networks or attacks that they've created.
Exactly. And and that was my first kind of real world big problem kind of thing. And especially because I was working in research, which meant that this was kind of cutting edge kind of stuff. It wasn't quite established kind of a business thing. That might have been the progress, the aim going forward, but that was kind of my first attempt.
And then what I heard from your presentation and what I read, then came some point of your life which it was really, really tough. You got burned out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So if we accumulate all the stuff I was just telling you now with being a student, working on research projects,
own startup.
Yeah, working on my own startup. I was really just, grinding my gears, just pushing myself as hard as I could. And when my professor was like, "Hey Matthew, I want to start a startup next," my plan was to have a break, but because he wanted to start it just immediately, I didn't get much time for a break. So we just went straight into the startup, and it took me about maybe 3-4 months until I was like full on, totally burnt out. I felt the signs coming. I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, what do I do?" And obviously my mom was obviously super caring. She doesn't care that I'm getting paid. She's like, "Hey, I don't want my son to struggle like this." So after some thinking, I decided I saved up enough money. I've got enough money. Let me just quit, go traveling. I'm a recent graduate. I study computer science. I've got good job experience, so I can always come back and get a job. So that burnout experience was really kind of a kickstart into like a new version of myself.
Let me use this experience for young researchers or young startuppers from today. So what is actually your advice? We all are coming to the point where we are pushing too much, are trying a lot on the different sides of our activities, and it always goes wrong because you cannot really multiply.
Exactly.
What is, after your experience with that, what could be your advice?
My advice, I'd say, historically speaking, I've always been a fanatic on productivity. I've always tried to study how can I be most productive? How can I get the most things done? But what I fail to understand is that I'm not a robot. I need rest. So that made me look into the human side of productivity, because productivity isn't just about getting things done all the time. It's also about looking after the human side of you, getting sufficient rest. And if we want to get technical, there's one term that I've researched or looked into briefly at a high level called ego depletion, which is the idea that willpower is like a muscle. So the same way that if you do a lot of physical exercise in a day, or if you run a lot, by the end of the day, you're going to get very tired. And if you do that every single day, your body is going to just get more and more tired. That's the exact same thing for willpower. And you need willpower for discipline. You need willpower for focusing, getting things done, for productivity. So I learned about treating my willpower like a muscle, giving it sufficient rest. And the thing is, it's hard to see it as a muscle, especially because willpower, it's not like a bicep or your legs. You can't
It is always about contraction and relaxing. It's not only contraction.
Exactly, precisely. So I think looking into the idea of ego depletion and understanding, what are your limits? Like, how long can you go before you need rest? And what does rest look like to you? For some people, it might be playing games. For some people, it might be going for walks. For me, it's going to the gym. I like lifting weights.
Really?
Yeah, I love lifting weights. I love exercising. And I think that's like one of the best ways to minimize your risk of depleting your willpower.
But back then, it happened to be also time of COVID when it happened to you, I think. And it was also the time where all of us somehow got and had to stop. And even if we're not so into the reflective stage of mindset, we got to be reflective because everybody else stopped.
Exactly.
So this is, I think, something that is also very important. What do you mean? What I mean is this: to be reflective and to, in some kind, stop and say, why am I doing this?
Yes.
What is your inner drive to do that, and how you will be more productive, or let's say more honest to your basic idea that you want to achieve? Or?
Yeah. So you're asking me how, what is my why? Well, how do I be reflective? Like for me, I'd say, it's interesting that you ask that now, because my sister was cleaning out my old house that I used to stay in, and she found my old diary from when I was like 8 years old. Yeah. And I used to have a diary from like age 8 all the way up until age 20.
Journaling, very important.
Yes, journaling. And what I realized is, because we have AI now, I basically took a photo of each page in that diary and I uploaded it to AI, and asked the AI to analyze me, right? And what AI told me, it told me many things. But one thing
LLM, or what have you used?
Sorry?
Which program have you used?
I used, actually I used two. So I used ChatGPT, I used GPT-4, GPT-4o, and I also used an LLM called Claude, which is Claude 3.5 Sonnet by Anthropic. So I used those two LLMs, and I just put my entire diary from 8 years old to age 20. I put them into the LLM, and I said, hey, tell me about myself. And one thing it told me is that I'm a very reflective person, because even when I was young, I was journaling, writing about myself, writing about my goals, and that's always made me very introspective. And in terms of like my goals and whatnot, I feel like life is about learning. You know, 1 minute your goal might be to like get a good grade at university. After you finish university, it might be to get a job. With my startup, I mentioned that how my startup was never my goal. That was never my goal. That was because I failed. I failed to get a job, right? Yeah. So my goals, they always change. But having that, as you said, journaling and reflecting is a really important skill to have.
And this, I think, it's really what makes us also by having failures from the process of failure to the process of learning, actually.
Yes.
Easier if you really are able to somehow journal or write it down. It's of course very important.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is quite a good point.
Yeah, definitely.
But then afterwards, suddenly you became, or you got, let's say, offers from very big companies like Bloomberg, to BlackRocka. You decided to be a BlackRocka. You're actually, let's say, overlooking assets of very, very high value of money, amount of money. From this totally different perspective. So how do you see your, let's say, your drive now? Your inner drive.
That's a very good question. Initially, I will confess that when we sold our startup, I was unsure what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to, grow in my career. I am a software engineer by trade, study computer science, so I wanted to actually grow my career. So I was like, do I want to go back into a startup? Do I want to, do something else? Do I want to work for a company? I ultimately decided, after speaking to multiple people, like my uncle, my mom, a few other people, they said, hey Metju, for your age, working at a big company, getting a nice steady job, steady salary is a very smart thing to do. You can build up experience. And I told myself that I'd only do it for 3 years, and after 3 years, I'd quit. But now it's been over 3 years, and going back to what I talked about, journaling and reflecting, my mindset has kind of changed over these 3 years, and I realized that one of my biggest motivators is just whatever I do to the best of my ability. So whether that's at BlackRock, the startup, whether that is in whatever I do, I want to do that to the best of my ability. So ultimately, I'm actually very happy at BlackRock. But even if I was not at BlackRock, I'd be happy wherever I was. So before, I was always trying to find the panacea, the place that I'm meant to be. But really, you can be anywhere. It's just a mindset thing.
That's quite interesting, because I think a lot of young people can learn from you. It doesn't matter if you are, studying on the university or or working for a big company. The basic drive force is what actually motivates and what actually brings you forward. Learning experiences and so on. So that is what I really liked in your sort of presentations and what I've read about your career. But now coming to Serbia, because now you have some experiences also with our startups and the people. You met also some people here. What do you think about this community, our community?
Fantastic question, because I came here knowing absolutely nothing about Serbia and the whole Serbian startup community. And similar to how I came here knowing nothing and I'm starting to learn more, it's the same way that in 2020, when I quit my startup, I went to Africa, I didn't know about the startup ecosystem in Africa. But by going to Africa, or Uganda specifically for the first time, I started learning, oh wow, they actually have startups here. Because I actually didn't know they had startups in like Africa, Uganda. I thought that was more of a UK, US thing. But being there exposed me to like the nuances and the challenges, like, access to capital, access to mentorship, access to talent, and those issues in Africa. Now, fast forward to 2024, now I'm here, you know, in Portugal with a bunch of startups in Serbia. I wasn't too aware of the startup ecosystem in Serbia. Similar to Africa, I was like, does Serbia really have a startup ecosystem? Obviously, I kind of knew, but I never knew anything about it. But now that I'm here, I've learned about the various challenges startups face. And I've spoken to various startups, and they all say the same kind of thing, like access to capital, access to business knowledge and training, access to like being able to tap into international markets. So even though I came in knowing nothing about Serbian startups, in a way I feel like I've always known about Serbian startups because the issues faced by startups here are similar to the issues faced by startups in Uganda and Africa. And that's actually what I've been like kind of like looking into, like how much of the challenges faced by these two different ecosystems, how much do they overlap? And in what ways can we like, you know, collaborate in terms of sharing knowledge between both regions and other regions like South America, Southeast Asia, and all over the world. These small ecosystems, they're often underdogs. They're often, you know, people don't really expect much of them. People don't really invest much of them. Most people don't, like I did it, most people don't really know about them. And these are the same issues that Serbian startups suffer from. So
I think there is also very, I don't know how the situation is in African community of startups, but in, let's say, Eastern European or ex-socialistic in the countries, there is a huge technological knowledge. There are the people with very good engineering skills, or, you know, they know how to develop technical solution for a problem. But where is the lack is, of course, building this kind of solution from the solution or technical solution to the product. That is where we need a lot. I don't know if your assessment is very similar, but I think that is where we have to work more and more. And that is why we are on events like Lisbon or any other DITEX or any other event in the world, and that is where we need support, actually.
Yeah, no, that's actually, you know, on Sunday when I first arrived, I actually got to spend some time with startups, and what you just said about, you know, Serbian startups being engineers, being proud engineers, wanting to build an amazing solution. The saying is, build and they will come. Obviously, that's wrong, right? You want to have that business knowledge of, you know, sales, marketing, customer acquisition. And this is actually why in my talk earlier, I mentioned specifically one of the key reasons that our startup succeeded is because we got into an accelerator that specialized in commercializing cybersecurity academic startups. So although we were technical people, we got training from, you know, experts on sales, customer acquisition, and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like if Serbian startups can get access to that kind of training, they can also increase their probability of achieving an outcome that they like. So, yeah.
And this is one issue that is additionally, I think, very, or let's say not so easy to change, especially in Europe, as an old lady, in the economy, which is has some kind of very traditional conventional structure of their industries. Like, you know, there is a heavy industry, there is a, I don't know, automotive, there is a, you know, electronic industry, and so on. Basically, what I think is that the Europeans, as a business ecosystem, we're always like separated from innovation, much more than African or American or whatever. We always treated startup communities, or let's say innovators, as some kind of cult or some kind of, you know, they're existing parallelly. Do you think that what we can do more to change it and to understand that actually this kind of people, startup companies or innovative companies, are backbone for the traditional industry, because competitiveness is nowadays only about, you know, using the technology that you can actually achieve. And if you do not, if you are not using it, and if you are not innovative, you can have a traditional bakery, but you will fail.
Yeah, I mean, I think this issue of Europe not embracing innovation enough, not embracing startups enough, is a big issue. I'm still learning more about the European laws around startups and their regulation. But from what I've understood, especially in the wake of like AI, artificial intelligence, everyone can argue that, you know, Europe is not really doing a good job. You know, just look at, you know, say the US, who are leading in this AI revolution. China as well is like a next up competitor, but Europe hasn't really embraced this as well. So I feel like, you know, for Europe to really take advantage of, you know, innovation and startups, this is like a really deep political kind of issue that needs to be resolved. Of course, I'm not, too familiar with what will be required from a political standpoint. I do know that it's definitely not technical, because I feel like the saying is, talent is evenly distributed. So talent is everywhere. Europe, Africa, America, but the issue is opportunity is not. So Europe are not doing very good in terms of making opportunities available. I don't know what that would look like, but once again, it's definitely like a policy kind of thing.
Do you think that the countries which actually just in the sudden past went through the transformation process, like, from socialism to democratic system, the new, let's say for the new Europe, or countries like Serbia, or countries, African countries, Kenya, where you see, or South America, where you can see much more activity and dynamism in the way from ideas to the solutions on the mainstream, much easier than in some kind of developed huge economies in Europe. I think, what is your impression? Because somehow it looks like, in Africa you hadn't had infrastructure like in, I don't know, in France.
Yes.
But that was happening in Africa with the fintech.
Yes.
And with on a banking in a digital world. It's like 50 years,
yes,
faster than Europe.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a good analogy. And I think that the term for that is called, I think they call it leapfrogging. So Africa leapfrogged from banks straight to mobile money. And it's actually very interesting because, I live in London, work in London, but when I have to pay for stuff, I always need to have my card on me. So if I forget my card, which has happened before, I have to go all the way back home and then get my card again. But in Africa, Uganda, Kenya, I never forget my phone. I don't think I've forgotten my phone, unless I lose my phone. But I've never forgotten my phone at home. Using my phone, I can always pay for things. So I feel like leapfrogging happens where innovation is required out of necessity. So they have to find a way to survive, and they just do whatever they can to make it work. Europe, like London, Paris, payments are kind of solved. So there's no urgency, there's no necessity to make a mobile money solution, because people can just use their card. You can also just use Apple Pay now, which is kind of like mobile money in a way. So yeah, leapfrogging happens out of necessity.
Yeah, I used to tell also on my public speeches that for the first time, actually, all the disruption we lived in the Balkans with wars and crises and everything what went through, as in Africa or in other countries which were more disruptive in the past and had very let's say different development than traditional developed countries and economies, are for the first time actually an advantage.
Sorry?
It's an advantage.
Okay, advantage.
Because we can move faster in disruptive technologies, because we went to disruptive societies also. So basically, it has something.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting point. So you're saying because of the difficult past, the level of resilience and adaptability and strength is stronger, so much so that going forward, we have the ability to do the impossible, to disrupt things, as you said. It's funny because I read that recently. Because talk about the Balkans or sub-Saharan Africa. Both of them had a troubled history, with wars, colonization.
A lot of instability, let's say.
Instability. Yes. So I feel like that instability is kind of a superpower, because it makes them more tough, stronger, more durable. Yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Quite encouraging words for the young generations in all our countries.
Yes.
What would be your advice to the young people you met from Serbia with some great ideas to always carry on with them? What would be your 3 advices? Say, do it.
I'd say, continue doing what you're doing in terms of, understanding that you may be an engineer, but it takes more than engineering to build a startup. So a lot of these startups have recognized that they've got salespeople, they've got marketers on their teams, and they're able to like even out their weaknesses. I'd also say, you know, back in the day, I thought I wanted to be a CEO. I thought I had to be the face of the company. You might not need to be the face of your company. You might be able to just, you know, collaborate with other people who have different strengths than yourself. Like collaborate with other marketers, other salespeople. You're an engineer. So rather than having separate startups, you can have one big startup with all these different skills. And you know, the last one is kind of and the last one is like you know, just endure it during the hard times, because you know, if anyone tells you that, say, startups or anything really in life is easy, then they're lying to you. And if you do it and you think it's going to be easy, then you're going to quit. And then when you quit, you're going to lose confidence in yourself. But when you understand that, you know, the journey isn't meant to be easy, you'll be able to endure it during the hard times. And this will be easier if you believe in what you're doing.
And you are, you know, living, you know, advice or let's say evidence that also after the burnout, you can be more productive, more successful, and more effective.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for this talk. It was really nice with you.
Yes,
thank you, Metju.
Yes, pleasure.
Kako razumemo organizacije? Ovo je u stvari pitanje koje su postavili Daniel Goleman i Kerry Chines, autori knjige Optimala. Daniela Golemana se sećate kao autora knjige Emocionalna inteligencija, koja je već postala klasik i remek delo, ali dosta godina je prošlo od emocionalne inteligencije, mnogo toga se desilo u svetu i uopšte i u nauci, i autori se sada bave sistemima, bave se našim odnosom ka tome kako razumemo organizacije, kako razumemo procese. I meni je lično ova knjiga doprinela itekako da sagledam da vođenje ili poslovanje u nekom sistemu nije samo poznavanje procesa, već i razumevanje svakog dela sistema i ljudi koje čine te procese. Kako razvijamo više empatije, kako bolje slušamo da bi mogli da unapredimo organizacije i sisteme. Ovo je zaista jedan dobar vodič za sve one koji žive i rade u organizacijama, ali ne samo to, i za one koji su roditelji, koji imaju porodice, jer sistemi su svuda oko nas. I za kraj, pročitajte ovu knjigu, možda zaista može da vam pomogne da budete bolji u poslovanju, da budete bolji i roditelji i porodični ljudi, jer se bavi onim što nama svima treba, a to je kako da bolje slušamo i kako da bolje razumemo. A do sljedeće emisije ostanite kao i uvek radoznali.